Welcome back to God's Business Playbook, and I'm your host, Kirby Ingalls. And today we're going to dive in to some crucial lessons from Genesis chapters 3 through 5. And we're going to unpack how these passages aren't just stories from the Bible, but they're powerful reminders of what it means to lead with stewardship, humility, and trust. Now, whether you're leading in business, at home, or in the community, these principles can change the way you approach leadership. Now, let's talk about the ripple effect of leadership. We all know that our decisions don't just affect us, they have consequences that reach far beyond our immediate sphere of influence. And in Genesis 3, we see this full effect. Now, Adam and Eve's disobedience didn't just change their own circumstances, it altered the nature of work and relationships for all of humanity. Now, one decision, and then suddenly, work became toil and relationships became fractured. As a leader, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and the grind. And we make decisions quickly under pressure without always thinking about the long-term impact. And in Genesis 3, it reminds us that every choice carries weight. And when we neglect humility and accountability in leadership, it doesn't just make things harder for us. It impacts the people we're responsible for and the culture we create and the legacy we leave behind. Let's move to Genesis 4, where we see the story of Cain and Abel. Cain's refusal to accept responsibility for his actions, his poor offering, and later his jealousy towards Abel led to devastating consequences. Cain represents what happens when we let unchecked emotions drive our decisions. In leadership, this can be dangerous, a very dangerous road to go down. And Cain's jealousy led to violence. And while we may not be in a position where emotions lead to such extreme outcomes, the principle still stands. Jealousy, frustration, or pride, left unchecked, can destroy relationships and undermine our effectiveness as leaders. So what does this mean for us? Well, first, it means we need to take ownership. We can't be leaders who shift blame when things go wrong, and leadership demands accountability. Second, we need to manage our emotions. Leadership is tough, and frustrations will come, but unchecked emotions will derail us and hurt those around us. This is why humility and self-awareness is critical in leadership. Now, Genesis 5 may seem like a simple genealogy, but it offers a powerful lesson about perseverance and trust in God's provision. Now, despite the consequences of the fall, life continued. The genealogies represent the endurance of life, purpose, and God's plan, even in the midst of hardship. What does this teach us? Well, perseverance in leadership is key. Sometimes the journey feels like a grind, but God is faithful. He provides and sustains us. And even when the road is tough, well, as leaders, it's easy to feel like everything depends on us, and as if that if we take a break, everything will fall apart. But God's design includes rest for a reason. Trusting God's provision means recognizing that our success isn't solely dependent on our efforts. We work diligently, but we also rest in the knowledge that God provides. This balance is crucial. So let's recap. Genesis 3 teaches us about the consequences of leadership, decisions, and the importance of humility. And Genesis 4 reminds us to manage our emotions and take accountability for our actions. And Genesis 5 shows us that perseverance and trust in God's provision are vital components of leadership. So, here are a few practical steps to apply these lessons to your leadership today. Start reflecting on your decisions. Are they aligned with God's principles of stewardship and humility? So take time this week to assess and course correct if you need to. Number 2, embrace accountability. Now, whether it's a mentor, a trusted colleague, set up regular check-ins to keep yourself accountable in your leadership decisions. And number 3, prioritize rest and reflection. Make rest part of your routine and trust that God will provide for your needs when you step back and recharge. Remember, leadership is a journey, and the lessons from Genesis 3 through 5 remind us that God is with us every step of the way. We're called to lead with integrity, humility, and trust in His plan. So as you go into this next week, consider how these principles, these biblical principles, can shape your leadership, your style, and guide your decisions. Thank you for joining me today on God's Business Playbook. And if this episode resonates with you, I encourage you to reflect on your leadership journey. How are you aligning your work with God's principles? And if you want to dive deeper into these ideas, subscribe to this podcast for more insights on faith-driven leadership and business. Together, we can lead with purpose, integrity, and resilience. And until next time, remember, your work is sacred, your rest is vital, and your leadership can have a lasting impact when it's aligned with God's plan. My name is Kirby Ingalls, and we'll see you next time.